Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode. Long time haven't done this. A chilling session of conclusion. If you are pro Ukraine, it's probably very chilling. It makes you shiver, that kind of chilling. But for the pro Russians and the neutrals, it's like the relaxing kind of chilling. No, so yeah, different kind of chilling. No, same but different. So we, uh, so so we're gonna for those that not know, our conclusions is me just sharing some opinions on the general macro situation of the war and what is probably currently happening, generally speaking. So it's more opinion basis based on what I know daily's reporting and daily's management or know of this mapping that I kind of have some insight that maybe some people don't have. So the Russians are launching multiple major offensive around Ukraine, and one of the biggest developments, just some latest news, is Kanyamsky. Over the Zaporizhzhia front, this is Zaporizhzhia, and at Kanyamsky, the Russian forces have allegedly captured Kanyamsky. So they have, so this is Kanyamsky, this is Plavny, this is another town, and so the Russian forces have raised a flag over here, and this at least confirm that this portion of Kanyamsky is now under Russian control. Basically, it's pretty much most of it already because we have another update over here. This is based on Ukrainian mapping, and they have already confirmed the Russians have captured this part. I would imagine Kanyamsky ends here. Imagine, not entirely sure. And we of course we have this very awkward salient here where the Ukrainians may or may not be still there. So however the based on the pro-Russian source, Ryba, they have already claimed that the Russian forces have captured Kanyamsky. And if this is true, so we don't have to debate whether the tactical situation is true or not, because generally you and I do not know. We only know based on what people tell us from Ukraine, be it from the Russian side or the Ukrainian side. So what we do know is that if this is captured, we are talking about a rather big strategic change, because Kayamsky is one of the major the cities or towns or settlements along the Zaporizhzhia line. For those that have been following DPA since 2022, you probably heard me say Zaporizhzhia line a lot, which is this line here. So this was the Zaporizhzhia line. Actually, it was like this. And Zaporizhzhia line actually have four settlements, have four sectors. This is the Velika Novosilka sector, and then we have the Huliaipole sector, Oskil sector, and the Kayamsky sector. The big problem right now for the Ukrainians is that they have already lost the Velika Novosilka sector. This is gone. Now Kayamsky sector is in danger because once you lose this, this foothold city, this settlement that underpins the control of the region, then you likely will lose the region. So what happened to Velika Novosilka? When the Russians captured it, you see the entire region just collapse. Like you can see the entire region just collapse. Once you lose this, it's very hard to control the rest of the territory. The Huliaipole, this is Huliaipole sector. Huliaipole is the one that controls the region here, and then you have Orikhiv that controls this sector here, this sector, and then you have Kanyamsky. So Kayamsky is the one that underpins the security of this sector here. The fact that the Ukrainians have lost this means that Ukrainians have to go back to the second line of defense, because Kanyamsky line is the first line of defense. This has been broken right now. If the Russian claims are true, battles will now go into Plavny. And from Plavny, they can just go down the coastline and they can totally ignore this entire defense line. They can just break just this part, just one corner of this defense line, and then they can go further, totally ignoring this entire front line, and then attack it from the rear. This is the implication of Kanyamsky. This Kayamsky gives them a strong base to build from. That's the main thing about settlements. As much as they can be rubbles, they can be like totally flattened. Somehow somehow because of the Soviet constructions where they all have basements and generally rubble flattened urban region is still more preferable than muddy jungles or muddy forests. So that builds them a good forward operating position to continue to attack. The whether the Ukrainians can survive this attack depends on whether they can survive the attack on Stepnohursk. Plavny is, I don't think it is doable. I don't think the Ukrainians can defend this. I think the next defense line is Stepnohursk, and of course they have the trench line around here. So Plavny is probably going to be gone very quickly. So the next move is depending on whether the Russians can break through. And the thing is that, yeah, with the Russians' advantage in artillery, airstrikes, air superiority, and of course superior weapon types that can destroy defensive positions like the TOS-1A, and yeah, this makes it like really weak. Like the Ukrainians don't have a lot that can hit back, other than drones. They only have drones, but the Russians also have drones. That's a problem. So the Russians, once they break out into Stepnohursk, I don't think there's a lot behind. I think there's one more defense line. Yeah, there's one more defense line over here. So these are the three defense line. 1, 2, 3 before you reach Zaporizhzhia. This is Zaporizhzhia. And yeah, so that is the main thing that we are looking at right now. Everything else here, so this area here no longer matters. This chunk here is no longer matters. Or everything is now depending on this attack on Stepnohursk. Stepnohursk taken, the whole line will collapse. Similarly, Kupyansk taken, the whole line here is going to collapse. The Russians are going to push a front line upwards towards Balivka and towards and face down this fortification here. They will face down this fortification, because if you don't have Kupyansk, traveling out just feels super dangerous. Yeah, so that's the main thing. And then you have a perfectly fine trench line. No, why go ahead? No, why go forward and get yourself killed? Although you stay in the trench, also get yourself killed. Yeah, that's the conundrum for the Ukrainian side. So then that's the problem with you don't want to fight a mobile warfare. If you fight a mobile warfare, Russians will find it a bit more difficult, I feel, because mobile warfare, Ukrainians would have certain level of advantage because of the Western doctrines or the Western weapons. I mean, it will be somewhat of a fair fight. But because the Russians cannot use a TOS effectively, because you don't even know where the enemy is, because they're always moving around and there is potential ambush anywhere. But if you have a fixed position, then you get struck by airstrikes and whatnot. So mobile warfare have its positives. Yeah, just saying. I would not say I would not say that because of the Ukraine war, a lot of people think that mobile warfare is dead. I personally do not think that's the case. I think unless your opponent decided to go into trench warfare, which is what the Ukrainians chose to do, which forced the Russian into fighting an attrition war, yeah, then of course, then the mobile warfare will not be able to be done. But if both sides decided to go into mobile warfare, I think it's doable. Because I just what I think. But once the Ukrainians start to entrench themselves, the Russians start to entrench themselves, and they entrench themselves like three times more than the Ukrainians. Like you introduce a warfare that you cannot compete on, then that's kind of sad. So that's kind of silly. So, but anyway, that's just my opinion. I might be wrong. The Ukrainians may think that I'm an idiot, for suggesting that not entrenching is a good thing. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, everybody can think whatever they want. Yeah, so it's free. Thinking is free. So the other front line, over just happened, since we're talking about the Zaporizhzhia line. We have some serious operations like Orikhiv. This operation around Orikhiv, nothing really talked about. At Huliaipole sector is very interesting, because the Russians are making some attacks in this sector here. At the Huliaipole sector, they have been attacking Potovka, Ohivske, Melinivka, and also Huliaipole sporadically. the battle for Melanivka is still ongoing, is still happening. There's not much intel about what's up over there, but the Russians making this push, this big arrow push here, is a bit of interesting development. I mean, as I say, Huliaipole is the one that underpins the security of this area here. But this Huliaipole sector is a bit long, and Melanivka is actually rather important as well in the secondary role, and it looks like it will fall eventually, given the fact that the Russians is already pretty deep into Melanivka. You know why? Because they need to buy grocery. The grocery store is there. What you want the Russians to do? Like, it's not like they're surrounded by farms, right? You know, where they can just eat sunflowers for lunch. So so that is the main thing here. Of course, this is a chain of settlement that is like, it still will take time, and yeah, and the Ukrainian seems to know that this is actually a rather weak, not entirely strongest possible place. You see the way how they have allegedly did the defense line is super unusual. Like, this is a very unusual line. Like, why is this like this line so far away? Like, why is it like this? Why is it not like this? Like, it's rather interesting. Of course there is these water bodies, that they are using, and the rivers they're using to like build this defense line. But no, like, wouldn't you want to, yeah. So it's a bit of an interesting choice by the Ukrainians to build a defense line like this. Of course, the Russians have not break the line yet. So maybe whatever they have done in this sector here is working. Perhaps that. Wow, my mouse is going crazy. So maybe I should use the other mouse. Yeah, since I'm not going to draw a lot. Oh, it's working. Oh, okay. So the other place is over here. This is the end of the used to be the Velika Novosilka sector. Oh, you can see the mouse is shit. I can't draw. So if you can't draw on your mouse, it's not your fault. Now you know. It's actually your mouse is lousy. Get a better mouse and you can draw beautiful pictures. So the Koma front problem is that the Russians are breaking out. Forget it. I used the old mouse. So it's breaking out in this region here, and Merne looks like it's going to fall. They have given up the impossible salience of Zaporizhzhia. So and the fact that the way how the front line have changed suggests that the Ukrainians did not defend Donetsk. They basically just ran away. There's a high chance Tolstoy is similar, where the Ukrainians just abandon the position without serious fighting. So this also puts into question. I mean, this is not across the whole of Ukraine. It's very frontline dependent, because different frontline, the Ukrainians experience different thing. The soldiers experience different thing and face different kind of different opponents. It looks like the forces over here feels like they are no longer willing to just hold position like they used to, and they are retreating en masse from positions which they think is undefendable. I'm not particularly sure if this is considered an undefendable place. I mean, there is all these forests, and then they have the tree lines. I mean, this is a settlement. There is some kind of a stream around it. There's tree lines, more forest plantations in the rear. I mean, it's not the worst place. And then there's a highway leading to Andrievka, Kletso Way, which leads direct. There is a direct line of resupply to this point, this position. So it was a surprise that Pitdone fell so quickly, because if Pitdone fell, then Merne is like a hopeless situation, because Pitdone is a much better position than Merne. So if this falls, then how can Merne survive? So so there is some concerns, I would say, from the Ukrainian perspective on the situation here. It looks really bad on how they did not try to defend harder at Donetsk. But of course, I may be wrong. Maybe they got shelled to hell, got airstrike to hell, and nobody want to die, and they just left. I mean, that's not impossible. But then that will be the fate of every single settlement the Russians will try to capture. We shall see. There is still some bright spot, if the Ukrainians don't mind the PR damage, is that the Voschcha River here leads to some very big forests over like this portion. So there is some very good defensive positions the Ukrainians can deploy along the Voschcha River. And there's a bridge, there's not much crossing around here. There's a big forest here. So the Ukrainians could potentially fall back to this line, wrong color, to this line. But they have to accept that they will lose the rest of Donetsk region in this sector here. So because this is the border of Donetsk. So if they can accept the emotional damage that the Russians take this region, so if they can accept that this area here will all be taken by the Russian forces, and they hold a defense line around here, I mean, yeah, then that will be all right. I think militarily, strategically speaking, I think that is a good defense line. The problem now is whether the Ukrainians will lose Novopavlivka and Filia first. If these two falls, then the Russians will just flank around the river, and that's going to be bad. Like, then your defense line around the river would not have worked. So, and Filia is under attack for quite a few days now. So I'm not entirely sure where the attack come from. Probably coming from Dashne, probably in this direction. And if they capture Filia, then there's a crossing across the river. So at Filia, there's a crossing in the north at the Solena River. So I think that's the one crossing. Yeah, that's the one crossing over there. And of course, there's all these meandering rivers that could be pontooned. And then there's the forest here. Maybe the Ukrainians can defend here. Let's see. Let's see what the Ukrainians will do. I also not entirely sure what the Ukrainians will do for now, because because it's very unclear what is the combat capacity right now. Like, based on our projection, they are now losing 20 square kilometers. Is severely hampered. Their combat capabilities severely hampered. Definitely, they are below par to really do defense operation, and this kind of thing will only accelerate. Like, a collapse of combat capability do not go linear. It's always exponential. Like, it's always gonna, like, the amount of ground loss will be exponential. It's very slow. Okay, I should draw crazy. I use my hand for what? So if you have this graph here, so this is time, and then this is the ground loss. So it will be like this, and then you go up, but then you just get exponential, you get worse and worse and worse, and then you just lose the whole country. So we are probably around here, maybe at this point. We are starting to see this increase. So maybe this is like 20. So at this point, this is maybe at this point, this is like 10. So this is like around 20. Oh my God. This is a chill. That's why I say it's a chill session. It's very unprofessional. So maybe this is around 20. This is around 20. There's around 10. And then we will start to slowly see the increase, like to 30. Then very quickly you go to 40 square kilometers. Then you start to become 50, but by around this point, it's probably around 50, and then you will become a deluge, and then it will be like 100 square kilometers a day on average. Then after that the calculation becomes stupid. So, and then by this point, the Ukrainians can't defend. Like, this area here, the Ukrainians, let's say we put a defensive ability, So maybe at this point they still like at 80%. Oh my God. Okay, 80%. So by this point they are already dropped to like 50. By this point it'll be like 25%. This is just my estimate. Like, for example, this is like manpower. Okay, so manpower. There are 80% men in the front line the frontline defenses is only 80% manned. By this point, it's probably only half. They needed 2 times more troops in order to actually defend properly. I think by now, by the 50, you'll be like, they only have a quarter of the troops, which means that you're constantly outnumbered by the Russian troops by tremendous multiples. So it's not just, like the Russians may attack on a 3-1, you know, like a NATO standard when we do an offensive operation is we try to have 3 times more troops than the enemy, than the defending troops. So to ensure maximum chance of success and minimal casualties. So if the Russians deploy more or less the same idea, then at this point of time, though, the Russians may be outnumbering the Ukrainians 6-1. By this point, they will be outnumbering the Ukrainians by 3 times 2. How do I count? My maths fail. So let's do some count. My brain is not working, so sorry. So if there is a, let's say, no, there's 4 troops, then you need times 3 is 12. So there's 12 troops to attack 4 troops, but they only have 1/4. So it's 1:12. Yeah, 1:12. So it will be 12 times more. How do you 1 person fight 12%? It's impossible. You know, 1 person fight 3% also is really impossible. You know, 1 person fight 12%, like, is disastrous. That means by this 50 square kilometers point, any defensive position will be just destroyed, wipe out very quickly, and the remaining troops will just have to run. They just have no choice, they have to run. And by the 100, this is probably only left 10%. What would that mean? That would mean that, let's say there's supposed to have 10 Ukrainian troops, the Russians will attack with 30, but then you only have one person fighting 30 troops. That is the end game. That will be the point where you will see that those massive big arrow movements happen. Grounds are lost massively by 100 square kilometers a day across all the different front line, as the front line totally collapse. So usually I say massive collapse, right? When that happens, it's not going to be massive, it's just total collapse. There is zero upside. It's just totally collapsed. So massive collapse, there is, like, you can still see that there's massive collapse, but no, they're still fighting. Like, there's massive pressure, but you still can handle. Yeah, you're massively under pressure, but you can probably still hold. But you totally collapse, like there is no hope. So I hope this puts some perspective into how I envision things. Like, as a percentage goes down, the odds become worse, and it's exponentially worse, which is why the losses is going to drop very. The losses of grounds is going to like increase by a lot, and this is just just one way to look at it. There's other frontline problems is over in the Minohrad Pokrovsk sector. I've talked about this for months now. So this is Pokrovsk and Minohrad city, and I mentioned that the Russians seems to be doing this big flanking operation into the north. The aim is to cut off this highway. This main road. The other path originally I thought that the Russians would do was to go up here. Was to like this and cut off this highway here. Apparently the Russians decided that no, this will only push the Ukrainian troops upwards to some kind of defensive position, which probably will drag the war further. So maybe the reason why they are trying to do this flanking operation is to force the Ukrainians westward, so that they go and defend Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, rather than go up and end up continue to defend more of Donetsk. Maybe this is the main reason why they're doing this, because if you let the Ukrainians block all defending Dopropilia, so this is city here, Dopropilia. If you drive them up north by doing this flanking operation, cutting off this road, and you put the pressure like this, then what will happen is that they will all go up and defend Dobropilya. That will be not so ideal, because that will just be another big city that you need to overcome to so-called liberate Donetsk. So I think maybe the rationale behind this more bigger and more troublesome flanking operation, instead from the one doing on the west, is to cut off this road, so that no Dobropilya is not the where the Ukrainian defend troops swing back to defend. Instead they will be forced westward along the highway as the Russian forces hit Kryshine, and then they close. Then they close it here, and then they close it here. So the closing is here. This will be the end point. I think maybe that's the reason. Because if they swing up north, then they will just build defense line in the north. Then it's just going to be like a drag on effect. It just continue to drag on. And the how the Russians have to conquer these giant cities of Slovians and Kramatorsk. It's not giant, like a big city of Kramatorsk and Slovians is to actually flank it on the west side. But then there's a lot of open ground, so they have to overcome all these open ground first. But all these settlements here are all much more tinier and less important. So yeah, should be much more easier to go through, rather than fight in the city. And so this probably the reason. I'm just looking at it, and the Russians are really moving along very quickly. They are at Rezine. It looks like they are on the verge of capturing Novoekonomichne. Like, given the speed of the things are happening, the Russians have penetrated from the south, and the Russians have multiple areas that they can penetrate through. They can attack in other regions, right, through down this highway from the north, from the northeast, and Novoekonomichne will be like pushed out, or will be like taken pretty easily, given if the Russians able to do this multi-pronged attack. So things are moving very swimmingly. So this will be the war, and then they will continue to Fedorivka, down to the lake. Is there a lake? Is there a lake? No, this looks like, what is this, man? I think it's a lake, yeah. So they can go to defend the lake, capture the mining quarry thingy, the Huli thing, take the other Huli thing, and then go through Rodinsky, and they can cut the road. So it's not impossible right now. It looks very plausible. The distance is merely 8 kilometers. If the Ukrainians do not defend at all, this will take 4 days. if they don't defend at all. But if they defend, of course, this will take a month, I guess. So, but we shall see how the Ukrainians react to this. Do they have the enough manpower to do the defending? Do they have the equipment? The heavy vehicles? We don't know. We really don't know. So all these things are operational secret. Don't assume to know. Like, I would say, no, I wouldn't assume to know. Any YouTubers, any experts behave and talk as if they know, they're bullshitting you. Nobody knows. It's an operational secret. The entire war, or intel war, like the whole point of the intelligence operating on both sides is to try to understand these exact things. What does the enemy have on the other side? So those are mysteries that the intelligence is trying to resolve. If they don't know, or they have to work very hard to find out what it is, how would you sitting in the on the sofa, on the armchair at home, supposed to know? Like, we don't know. So, and yeah, so I usually not so, like, I don't be like, I don't presume to know. I'm just saying that maybe. So if people are very sure, when they talk, they're like hell-bent sure about something that they don't really have the access to those information, yeah, they're probably bullshitting you. So this is the thing here. And other front line, I think not so important, like Donetsk, not important for now. I think these operations here, like the Siversk, there's this 4-pronged attack happening right now. This is very minor offensive. No, don't so it's not as important. So the other big one is over in the Voreshna. The Voreshna one is the Russians have captured Milove recently, and they are now pushing Ambani and Katni. So how fast then can they progress here? No, hard to say. The terrain here is a bit challenging. It's not. It's very fractured. Like there's a lot of all these forests all over the place, big forests, then gully forests. No, like it's all over the place. This kind of terrain is super hard to fight through. If the Ukrainians decided to plant ambushes, snipers, no anti-tank units like everywhere. If they dot it all over the place like this, basically you cannot travel through at all. You have to like hunt for all these units, and then you have to risk some soldiers' life. It'll be mostly a drone warfare in this sector. So this something to know. Like for example, this is where the Russians are right now. Probably they have the full forest now. The Ukrainians probably will have like some units. I'm not sure you can see. Let's say I put yellow. Some units. They'll have a bit more at the settlement along here, the tree line. I just dotted where maybe the Ukrainians will defend. Like they'll put some defensive position all over the place. So no matter where you go, no matter how you move, you could be attacked. It's just very dangerous. Like you don't know, but the Ukrainians clearly don't have enough troops to fill up every forest. But you just operate in small squads, especially if they are effective, good troops. They have a good aim. They have good cover. They know how to cover. How to conceal themselves, and they have anti-tank weapons. Yeah, this everywhere is a kill zone. Going here, you're gonna get attacked like from multiple directions. You move out, you're gonna be attacked from multiple directions. So this kind of terrain is like not easy. So we shall see how this goes. By then the Russians the other big news is mainly the one at Kupyansk. I mean, some of these are some of the claims of advance, but this doesn't change strategic situation much. The big one is actually the Russian claims. The Russian Defense Ministry's claim of capture of Sobolevka. This is a very wild claim. This is a very, very courageous claim because we totally have no idea, and even Ryba don't dare to map it as reality. Nobody know what the hell is this. So they have claimed capture of Rakivka on the 23rd of May, and then 20th of June, almost a month later, they announced the capture of Pokrovsk. Then just around 3 weeks later, they say they have captured Sobolevka. The timing actually does make sense. I mean, this progression, given the timing, makes sense. But we have the fact that there is no corroboration is weird. But the thing is that if this is true, this is shocking because Kupyansk only left with 2 main roads out. So wrong color. So this one road, this is the other road. This is the 2 main road. This northern road is already like it's not usable now. And of course, there is some smaller roads. This smaller roads, Mokovka allegedly is gone. Now Sobolevka is gone, and the Russians can go through the forest and cut the other road and continue on the forest and cut off the road in the south, and Kupyansk will be closed for business. And that will be shocking. That will be a crazy development, but we do not know. The problem is that this cannot be corroborated. We can't tell if this is true. And if Kupyansk is encircled entirely like this, the only crossing left, it will be at Kupyansk Volozhny. So there's 2 bridges around here along the river, along the Oski River. So this will become the next super important hub or defensive position that Ukrainians must hold, because if you lose both Kupyansk and Kupyansk Vlovy, then this entire front line is gone. There is no more Kupyansk front, essentially. So yeah, but no, it looks near, but we can't even corroborate all these things, so we don't know. But this is just something important to talk about. The rest of the things happening here, right? The Russians attacking Abrane, Kanyamka, Krasny Pershi, Petro Ivanivka, Dohemki. They're like as if they're pushing everywhere. Like I said, I mentioned just now, the terrain is just not that good for a quick operation. So unless the Ukrainians don't defend at all, if they just simply deploy a small squads everywhere, it's just very hard to progress. Unless the Russians is willing to take losses and do an armored feast and push all the way, which the Russians don't do nowadays. So I don't expect that to happen. And then the last area is at Sumy. The latest information suggests that the Ukrainians have captured back Kindrativka. Geolocation of Russian airstrike over here means that the Russians actually lost Kindrativka. The Ukrainian counterattack seems to have been successful, and they did also claim to have retaken back Andriivka. So the advance of the Russian forces is smaller than expected, or smaller than previously reported. So the Russians may have fall back to Konstantinivka along the river and Oleksievka. So probably the defense line is now around here, and everything here is actually under Ukrainian control, with the Ukrainian forces retaking Kindrativka and Andriivka, and some of these further positions down here. And this is probably the gray zone between the two defense line. So this is the latest, which means that the buffer did not work for now. So that means the Russians still have a lot of work to do, because I expect the buffer zone to look like this. So they have lost the chunk here. Allegedly, they lost this chunk here. So there is more operations to go. The Russians currently is focusing on Varashkine as well as Yunakivka. They seems to not focus as much as on this area. So let's see how this play out. The Russians in the latest report attacked Zaporizhzhia, and they have so-called secured Gord now. We shall see. This is still early days. This is only the first initial report. So anyway, I think this all. I think the video is long enough. I think I've talked a lot because haven't have a conclusion in a long time. So hopefully this is helpful. Very different from sitrep. And let me know what you think in the comments if you want to have more conclusions, and what you prefer, the conclusions or sitrep. Also, you can let me know what in the comments. Happy birthday to you if you are birthday today. For those that are confused, it's not my birthday. I just wishing people happy birthday. It's not my birthday. So my birthday is in March. It's already long over. But happy birthday to you if your birthday today. And press the like button, subscribe, and share this. I think conclusions is one of those more shareable stuff. I think is less dry. Maybe it's still very dry, but no. But it helps to have a general picture of what the hell is happening. Instead of a sitrep, it's a very daily thing. No, it's more technical, so it's a bit different. So that's it. I'll see you guys. So have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next update.